Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Everyone Watches Women's Tennis podcast, a podcast that is solely focused on the women's game, giving you regular updates about what's going on the WTA tour, both on and off the court. Hi, guys, I'm back. It's crazy that intro says regular updates when I've been gone for a good 2 months or something. So mad for me. No excuses. Yeah, sorry. I'm very sorry. That didn't come off sincere, but I'm sincerely sorry. For anyone that looks forward to these episodes, or anyone that's supporting or encouraging me in any way. So I do truly apologize. So I just thought, why not do a catch-up episode, recapping what's going on the tour so far, looking at the tournaments played, winners, runners-up, just looking at the players who's done well, who's looking to have a good year, who really needs to have a good time at the French Open, all of that. And then I'll also just give some thoughts on the most recent final that was played in Rome with Svitolina and Gauff, and then also just my thoughts at the moment about the French Open, about the players and how I see them going. And then I think I end it like that because there's so much to talk about, but I don't want to keep you here forever because I'm back. So I'm going to be talking your ear off for a long time. Yeah. So let's get into it. Before I go on, I feel like in a podcast, you have to have the microphone visible. And that's why I have it there. I also don't want to be holding it up because it messes up the audio. It's too close. So I've got it right here. So hopefully it catches everything really well. And I'm trying to figure out the best position for it. Mind you, this is my first podcast episode where I've recorded myself, so I'm a bit uncomfortable, if you can't tell, and it's a bit new for me. We'll see how it goes, see if people like it. Okay, so as I said, this episode will be a bit of everything, kind of a recap of how the year is going so far. So I thought the best place to start will be with the rankings, is specifically top 10, and then some other marquee or important rankings that I think you guys should be caught up on. So I am going to be looking at my phone for a second, even though I know the top 10 pretty well in my head, but I'll just confirm. So first of all, we've got Aryna Sabalenka, world number 1, then Elena Rybakina, world number 2, then world number 3 is Iga Swiatek, world number 4, Coco Gauff, then number 5, we've got Jessica Pegula, then Amanda Anisimova at world number 6, then at world number 7, we've got Elina Svitolina, world number 8, we've got Mira Andreeva, at number 9, we've got Victoria Mboko, and then rounding off the top 10 is Karolina Muchova. Then moving from that, I've got some key players as well that are just outside the top 10. So we've got Belinda Bencic, who was in the top 10 and then has jumped out. So there's not that much distance. And then also Linda Noskova. She's been knocking on the door of top 10 for a little bit now. I think she just needs a really big performance in a slam, or at least win 1,000 tournament, and she'll jump right in there. Then another person who's just outside, they've been pushed out because they didn't regain those points that they earned in the past year, which is Jasmine Paolini. And then some other players that I think are pretty key is Marta Kostyuk, who is, but the way she's playing and performing, she is looking that top 10 in the eye, and I think she's coming for it. And then as well as Naomi Osaka at world number 60. Kostyuk is at world number 50. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of important just to know the landscape. And then next we've got the big movers. They're not ranked in the top 20 or anything, but they are ranked in the top 100 and actually made their top 100 debut. So they deserve a shout out. And I think they're also very important names for you to know for the future. So first we've got Talia Gibson, number 58. Then we've got Sarah Balek at world number 35. And Nikola Batunkova, 93. Then we've got Daria Snigar at 98. Then we've got Lily Targa at 91. And the rankings have probably changed a little bit since I wrote this script, but they've all debuted in the top 100 this year. So massive achievement. And then looking at the teens that are in the top 100 currently, we've got the highest ranked teenager being Mira Andreeva, probably could have guessed, at world number 8. And then coming in very close behind is Victoria Mboko at world number 9, then Iva Jovic at world number 16, then Teresa Valentova, and then lastly we've got Lily Tagger. So that's that on the rankings. I don't have too much else to say about them. Then going on to the tournaments that we've had so far this year. Again, this is a recap, so I want to bring you up to speed about where we're at, because what a lot of people don't realize is tennis is all year round. Like, it is constant, week in, week out. There's a tournament being played. So, of course, you hear about the big ones, the majors. But then there's also the 1,000 tournaments, which you probably hear about. But then there's the in-betweens, the 500s and the 250 level tournaments that you can sometimes miss. So I'm just going to quickly go through them for you. So we'll start with at the beginning of the year. So Brisbane International. So defending champion was Aryna Sabalenka, and then she made it back to the final again, beating Marta Kostyuk 6-4, 6-3. Then at the Auckland Classic, the winner was Elina Svitolina, who beat Jinyu Wang, and that was 6-3, 7-6. Then at the Hobart International, Elisabetta Cocciaretto won that 6-4, 6-4 against Iva Jovic. Then at the Adelaide International, Mira Andreeva beat Victoria Mboko 6-3, 6-1. Then at the Australian Open, we had Elena Rybakina beating Aryna Sabalenka 6-4, 4-6, 6-4. Then at the Transylvania Open or Cluj-Napoca, we had Sorana Castella, her home tournament, beating Emma Raducanu 6-love, 6-2. Then in Abu Dhabi, we had qualifier Sara Balek beating seeded number 2 Ekaterina Alexandrova 7-6, 6-1. Then in Ostrava, Katie Boulter beat Tamara Kopacz 5-7, 6-2, 6-1. Then in Qatar, the Qatar Open, Lina Mukova beat Victoria Mboko 6-4, 7-5. Then Dubai Open, we had Jessica Pegula beating Elina Svitolina 6-2, 6-4. Then at the Merida Open in Mexico, we had Cristina Busca beating Magdalena Frech 6-1, 4-6, 6-4. Then in Austin, Texas, Peyton Stearns beat Taylor Townsend 7-6, 7-5. Then Indian Wells, we had Aryna Sabalenka beating Elena Rybakina 3-6, 6-3, 7-6. Then she won back-to-back the Sunshine Double, where she beat Coco Gauff in Miami 6-2, 4-6, 6-3. Then starting the clay season, we had Jessica Pegula, who was also the defending champion, Yulia Starodubtseva 6-2, 6-2. Then in Bogota, we had Marie Buskova beating Pana Udvardi 6-7, 6-2, 6-2. Then in Linz, we had Mira Andreeva beating Anastasia Potapova. That was 1-6, 6-4, 6-3. Then in Stuttgart, Elena Rybakina beat Karolina Mukova 7-5, 6-1. Then in Rouen, Marta Kostyuk beat Veronica Podres 6-3, 6-4. Then in Madrid, Marta Kostyuk as well, back-to-back titles, wins. She's also on a big winning streak. Beat Mira Andreeva 6-3, 7-5. And then most recently, we had Elina Svitolina beating Coco Gauff in Rome. And that scoreline was... What was that scoreline? Sorry, that scoreline was 6-4, 6-7, 6-2. And that's where we're at with the tournaments this year. So as I was going through them, I was just making note of how well certain people have done this year. So best performers so far in the year, we've got most finals with Aryna Sabalenka making 4 finals and then winning 3 out of those finals. So she has the most titles this year so far. Then next we have Elena Rybakina, who has been in 3 finals and has won 2 titles, as well as Marta Kostyuk, who's been in 3 finals and has won 2 titles as well. Then Jessica Pegula has been in 2 finals and has won 2 titles, and Mira Andreeva has been in 2 finals and she's been in 3 finals and has won 2 titles. And I'm trying to think if anyone else I'm missing who is kind of stands out. Let's have a look-see. No, not necessarily. We've got Mukova. She's been in 2 finals. She's won 1. So some people have been in a couple of finals and won 1, or some people have just been in 1 final and won the tournament. And then Coco and Victoria Mboko have played in 2 finals this year and they haven't yet to win something. So it sucks for them, I think, right now, but it's promising in terms of the rest of the year and the rest of the season and the fact that they can get themselves into finals anyway. Then moving on to some changes that we've had on tour, specifically and mainly and basically only Well, there are other things that happened, but the ones that I'm focusing on right now are some coaching changes. So we'll start with, I think, the biggest one, most significant, which happened back in March after Indian Wells in Miami, and that was Iga Swiatek and Wim Fissette going their separate ways. And Wim was her coach from October 2024 to March 2026. And they won 3 titles together. That was Wimbledon last year, Cincinnati last year, and Korea Open last year. So it's funny. I think they had a good year. They were successful, but the way we talk about Iga and knowing her at her best, it wasn't that. And I think Iga has changed as a player. And I don't know if that's Wim Fissette's fault, but I don't think he improved too much. And I think that the Wimbledon win worked because of how she plays now. She's become, at some points, a ball basher. And that can work on the grass, right? So it makes sense why she won Wimbledon. I also think she had an easy draw, but that can work on Wimbledon. But in everything else that she has always been super good at, or super successful at, she hasn't been doing it anymore. But maybe that's too much on. But I don't know if that has anything to do with Wim. But it's your play style, so it kind of has to do with your coach. But I think those changes were already happening before Wim was her coach. But he didn't, I don't know. He's a really nice guy. I really like him though. I think he brought a sense of calm in her box, considering her sports psychologist, whom I have mad beef with personally. And a lot of people, tennis fans, I think agree with me, but let's not get into that. Anyway, so she's moved on to Francisco Roig, who has coached a few players on the ATP and then also coached Emma Raducanu for like a short period on the WTA. Then second player who broke up with their coach around the same time as well, so it was all coaching breakups, was Amanda Anisimova, and Henrik, how do you pronounce his name? Vlissauers? Yeah, we'll just say that. Vlissauers, also split in 2026. And it's interesting with that one because, it's been her coach for a while, especially since she came back from her time off. And they were really, really successful together. They were very successful together last year, especially where she first won her biggest title to date, and then she made 2 slam finals back to back. But I guess there comes a time with a coach, especially after the performance at the Australian Open. Mentally, she just seemed not there, especially in the match that she lost. So I don't know. I think maybe a new change, especially because it's brought us so far. Sometimes you need someone who can bring you so far, and then you need a different person to take you up that final level, final step. So that could be that for Amanda. And I hope whoever her new coach is, it works out. Because with the WTA tour in the past, it's happened a lot where players have switched coaches and it's disrupted their rhythm and disrupted their career for like a year or 2. So definitely hope that doesn't happen to Amanda. And with Amanda, it hasn't been confirmed. She hasn't confirmed who her new coach is, but she was seen training with Torben Beltz, who coached Kerber when she won Australian Open, US Open in 2016. So that seems like a good appointment, but it's not yet confirmed. And then the next player who's had a coaching change is Victoria Mboko, and she's actually trialing with Wim Fissette, who we just spoke about, on a trial basis. And I think a main reason for Victoria looking for a new coach is that her now former coach, Natalie Talzat, got a bigger, more substantial role with Tennis Canada, so she wouldn't be able to coach her anymore. And I think it's great to look at Wim. He's like coached quite a few champions from Clijsters, Azarenka, Osaka, Iga. So it's a good appointment. I don't have too many opinions on that, honestly. And then last but not least is Emma Raducanu, another coaching change. And this is an interesting one because she's returned to Andrew Richardson, who is the person that coached her during her US Open title run. And it's funny because right after the US Open title run, she fired him because she wanted a new perspective, or someone who's been on the WTA tour for a long time. But it's good to see her going back to someone she's known for a long time and feels comfortable with. And I just hope that this can create a path of stability for a good 1-2 years for Emma. Because she sometimes has stability. It's like 3 months here, 3 months here, and then it breaks down, and then 3 months here, then it breaks down again. So hopefully this can be a sustained level of stability. Then moving on to the most recent tournament, I just thought I'd talk about it quickly, look at some tennis, but not too much, is the Rome final between Coco Gauff and Elina Svitolina. And as I mentioned before, Svitolina beat Coco in 3 sets. So the score was 6-4, 6-7, 6-2. And hopefully these are some succinct takeaways, but knowing me, I will ramble because I always have a lot to say. But first of all, I did not watch the final live due to the time difference and the rain delay. Because the match was meant to start at 1 a.m. in Australia. And I was watching the FA Cup final, Chelsea versus Man City, at 12 a.m. And that was fine because I was like, I can watch the match and then I can finish the football match and then start watching the tennis on 2 screens. But because of the rain delay, the match didn't end up starting till 2:15. And by that point, I was tired. I watched like 15 minutes, the first few games, and then I couldn't continue on because then it would have disrupted the rest of my day. So I didn't watch it live, which I wish I had, but sometimes you have to sacrifice. Because I sacrifice my sleep a lot. So sometimes I have to sacrifice tennis for my, daily life. So once I came back from church, I ended up watching the whole match, beginning to end, just to see what happened. And it's interesting because when I went to sleep, I had watched, as I said, a few games and Coco was up a break. And I went to sleep like pretty confident that Coco was going to win the match. And I was like, oh, Coco, I think she's got this. Because also Svitolina looked lethargic and tired. That's part of the reason. I think on a normal day, on a normal match, I would feel differently if Svitolina had looked up to it when I was watching. And then I woke up and I checked the score and I was confused. And I was like, yep, I definitely have to watch this because I'm mad confused. Anyway, so here are my thoughts. Again, I've got my book here, so I have to look down, okay, my notes. It's so much easier recording when it's just a recording. You don't have my face. So I'm trying to give eye contact, be engaged, but also know what I'm talking about, Okay, so starting off, as I said, Svitolina started slow and sluggish, and Coco was on it. She was very on it with her serve and her movement, as she normally is. But after watching the match, she didn't do enough to stay on top, and she didn't do enough to shut down that first set. But in saying that, it's not just Coco, it's Svitolina. Although she was a bit slower and seemed a bit tired, she still always has that fight in her, and she wasn't letting herself get broken, which this is what she did the entire tournament. She was like, nah, no one's breaking me. I might get in some difficult situations, but I'm not getting broken. And that's what happened. And because Coco didn't put her stamp, I guess, on the match and the set and just push Svitolina aside, it then gave opportunity for Svitolina to find her way back into the match once she had warmed up and just seemed to get more energy. And then that's when Coco was faltering on her serve and forehand. So that was that with the first set. And then, like I said, Svitolina grew into the match and took a while to warm up. And we've seen this new Svitolina who is super aggressive as a player, a lot more aggressive. And she kind of strikes a really nice balance because she has become more aggressive, but she's maintained a clean game. She still doesn't make a lot of unforced errors. And at the start of the game, and I think throughout the game, Coco's game plan seemed to be to bring Svitolina into long rallies. And at first it worked because she was tired, but eventually it wasn't working anymore, especially considering that Svitolina was the more aggressive player of the two. I just think that game plan started to falter. And usually that's how Coco plays against a lot of players, and that can frustrate them, like the Sabalenkas, the Rybakinas, those super aggressive, like first strike tennis players. But with Svitolina, she's quite patient, and she, not to the same level as Coco, but she's one of the best defenders and movers in the game. So she can entertain those long rallies. And then paired with that aggression, she can then strike first before Coco does. But yeah, I think that's all I had to say. I just think Svitolina came out on top because she was a more aggressive one, and her mental strength and self-belief is amazing. It's second to none. I was saying something to my brother, I think, or my sister. Svitolina in the past, I feel as though she hasn't lost because of her self-belief or mental strength. She's actually lost on the tennis front, which is rare for top players. Usually they're like, in terms of like tennis and ability, they're the same, and then someone is better mentally. But with her, it feels as though it's the other way around. Like mentally she's there, but tennis wise, there's some people that are just a little bit better than her. So yeah. And then Coco, and then before I fully give the flowers that Svitolina deserves, I'll give some flowers to Coco as well. She's very mentally strong. And I think this tournament run, and yeah, this tournament run was very necessary for her to gain some confidence before that title defense she has to do at the French Open. And because after Madrid, I was worried. And Madrid, she was sick. So it's kind of hard to judge that title run. But she's a player that can work her way into a tournament, play her way into a tournament, but it's harder to do at a Grand Slam. I think this tournament would have given her a lot of confidence, hopefully. So we can see a really good and robust title challenge or title defense. Then, as deserved, flowers to Svitolina. Her third Rome title, actually. She's won this title. She had won it 2 times before, so she, I guess, feels very comfortable there and on clay. And it's her biggest title as well since coming back from maternity leave. So again, it's good to see that I guess she's back on that same path she was on before she got married and had her child. And this tournament win is crazy because she beat number 2, 3, and 4 in that order to make it to win the title. So it just shows that she's up there with the elites again, which she has been for quite a few years now. But I still think it's crazy that she's never won a major, she's never even made a major final. She hasn't yet. And I think that could very well change very, very soon. And clay is her best chance of beating those players that tend to overpower her. Because she can play really, really well. I think we saw her at the Australian Open. She was playing really, really well. She beat Mira. She beat Coco. Playing great. And then comes up against Sabalenka, who just essentially overpowers her. Even though she's playing this aggressive brand of tennis, which has been working so well everywhere else, it's just she's being overpowered. And obviously that's easier to do on hard court. So I think on clay with her movement, this is her best chance. With a good draw, even a difficult draw, I think she can maneuver her way out of it. So that's how I feel about Svitolina. And just on the final overall, it was magnificent. It was some really, really high quality tennis from both players. They both dug really deep. They, I think, put it all on the table. I don't feel like anyone necessarily lost the game. Because sometimes it's like, yeah, someone won, but someone lost the game. I didn't feel that way in this one. And I think it was just like a great advertisement for the WTA and where it's at the moment. But that's all I have to say on that Rome final. It was a good tournament. It's not my favorite clay tournament. My favorite is Madrid, but I didn't make an episode about that, so let me not talk about it. So that is that on the year to date. And then looking forward, looking into the future, let's just go through some of my thoughts about French Open. I will not discuss the money thing. I might discuss that at a later date because I do have some opinions on it, of course. And what else do I not want to discuss? I think that's it. But I'm just quickly going to just throw out some thoughts. Mainly, let's just get into it. So we'll start with my initial thought is I don't know who the favorite is. I have no idea what the favorite is. Usually there's like a pool of favorites that I can guarantee one of the 4 or 5 would win. So that's usually like Iga, Coco, Sabalenka, Rybakina, Jessica Pegula. That's my like pool of favorites. But this year, those favorites are there, but they haven't performed as well as they normally do. And then there's also like a list of players that, again, is always there for me that will do well, but it's extended because of how well some of these people have performed in the past few weeks. So I don't know who the favorite is. I do have a gut feeling about who I think will win, which is the same person that I mentioned in my preview of the entire year. And I'll probably mention it again when I go through this. But I'm not like confident. I'm not even confident some of these players will go far, which is rare because I look at them, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll see you in the quarterfinals. But it's been a bit touch and go for a few there. Anyway, so we'll start with top of the rankings and top of the seeds. We've got Sabalenka. She hasn't had a great clay season. It hasn't been up to her standards. First of all, after Miami, she didn't play Stuttgart, which she normally plays. She's still trying to get that Porsche. I think she should give it up. But she usually plays it, but she had an injury with her shoulder, which is the same shoulder that in 2024 had issues. And it really, you could see it in her serving. Anyway, so not a great start to the clay. Then she couldn't defend her Madrid title, and then she lost like very early on at the Rome Open. So with Sabalenka, clay is probably her least favored surface, or maybe the one she's least comfortable and confident on. She has been successful on it, of course, but it's not hard court. Let's just say it's not hard court. So she's someone who really needs to have a good prep and warm up before going into the French Open, and that hasn't happened this year. So I don't really know. Like I'm a bit confused about what we're going to see at the French Open. I don't doubt her because of how she's performed in Grand Slams for the past 3 years. We'll see. And like to note, in those matches against that she lost to Baptiste and Castella, she had chances. Like against Baptiste, she had 7 match points. And then against Castella, she broke back when Castella was serving for the match. But something seems a bit off with her serve. It's not as effective. It's not as effective on clay, but it's an issue that needs to be sorted out because you need to be winning games on your serve easily, and that wasn't happening. Next, I've got Iga. And for me, Iga on clay is never a doubt, and she's always a favorite, especially at Roland Garros. She's always like top 2, top 3 favorite Roland Garros, despite her form anywhere else. So if she wins, I won't be surprised. And going into this, she played not great in Madrid, but that's because she was sick. And then she played relatively well in Rome until she played Svitolina. And in that match, she just seemed uncomfortable, especially considering she didn't bulldoze or walk over Svitolina. And whenever she gets like backed into a corner a bit, she starts ball bashing. And then that's when, in my opinion, it all falls apart. So I think if she gets a comfortable draw, there's no, like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Iga in the final at all. And then moving on, I guess I'm just going by ranking. We've got Elena Rybakina. I don't have a lot to say on Elena. Like, her losses in the past few weeks at Rome and at Madrid have looked like someone who, like, doesn't really care that much and has kind of given up. And I never like to accuse players of giving up. I just don't think I can find the right words to express it. So, of course, she hasn't given up, but the demeanor seems not fully there to put up a fight. But she also won in Stuttgart. So she plays well on clay, we know that. But I'm not too sure. I'm kind of excited to see what will happen with Elena at French Open, because she's gunning, since she won the Australian Open, she's gunning for a calendar slam. So who knows? And then I already mentioned Coco. She had a good run in Rome, which confidence is good going into Roland Garros. And even Coco, she said she has like a love-hate relationship with clay. She plays really well on it, and that's where some of her best results have been. But it's still, sometimes it's a struggle to like warm up to it. But I think she'll be fine. I think she'll make second week easily. I would be very surprised if she didn't. But I do think she needs to be winning matches in a bit of a more like an easier fashion instead of what she did in Rome, where she was playing 3 sets all the time. Unnecessary. And then at the start of my predictions for the year, I had Mira winning Roland Garros. And then I saw the way she crashed out, like, and how she lost at the Australian Open and then at Indian Wells. And I was like, okay, maybe that prediction was way off. And how she's performed, honestly, for the past year. But then coming into clay, how I've seen her play, she's had her crash out moments, but also how I've seen her resolve and how she's put it back together. And I know she lost in Madrid to Kostyuk, but Kostyuk was just on fire. I'm kind of feeling confident in my prediction again. And the draw does change things sometimes, but I'm backing her. Even when the draw comes out, I'm backing Mira to take this one. And And I think the reason I'm backing her to take this one is I've always thought her first slam will come on clay, because clay is where she was first introduced to us. That's where she first stood out, let's say, to us. So it would be, I don't know, a full circle moment. And with Mira, it seems that she would be more likely to win a title or win a major if she has to play Iga, Sabalenka, Rybakina back to back to back. I'm not putting Coco there. That's a puzzle that she will need to solve one day. But she seems more likely yet to beat those players consecutively than she is to win the major playing back-to-back matches against people she's favorites against. Because I don't know, that's what's happened in the past year. When she's a favorite against someone going to the fourth round quarterfinals, just something switches off. I've got big hopes and high expectations for this tournament, because it's time to buckle down. It's time to buckle down for Mira, in my opinion. And then there's that big pool of players that I mentioned before that have put themselves in the conversation for Roland Garros. And some of it is based on past performances, and some of it, and a lot of it actually, is based on their most recent performances. So we've got the Mukovas, who's been in a final before and plays well on clay. We've got Svitolina, plays well on clay, just won Rome, is looking lethal. And then we've got Koscheck, who is like playing super, super well and is on a, how many? I don't know, like a 10 match winning streak, something like that. And then, speaking about Koscheck, I am so proud and happy to see that the form that she started the year with at the Brisbane International, and then she got injured at the Australian Open. I'm so happy to see that form has come back and she's maintaining it after coming back from that injury. Yeah, it's good. Like, I hate when a player is playing really, really well and making great progress and then they get injured or something like that. So in this case, she has come back from that injury and is playing at that same level. Then we've got some other players. What did I write down? Then I've got like Potapova, Kastea, Noskova. Obviously, it would be a surprise if they won, but, you know, don't count them out. Don't count anyone out. Yeah. And then there are also some players that I don't think they have a chance at all. Like, there's Jess on the clay. She's good, but she's not Jess, you know, Jess on hard court. So that's Jessica Pegula, by the way. So I don't think so. And there's just some other players. I'm like, I'm not too sure. But when I do my in-depth French Open preview, which French Open's in a week, so that's coming very soon, then I think I'll really talk about that when I look at the draw and everything. That's when can really be, I guess, predict more. I don't know. What am I trying to say? Anyway, that was all for this episode. Thank you so much for listening or watching and catching up with me. I do appreciate your support on everything on Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you listen to on. Thank you for your support. And please leave a review and 5 stars. And follow my Instagram, which is EWWT Podcast. And then also subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is Everyone Watches Women's Tennis. Thank you guys for watching and have a lovely day. Bye.